Okay, hello everyone and welcome to today's CIBSE ANZ webinar. Today I'm going to be talking about how to achieve CIBSE membership as well as how to achieve Engineering Council registration. As I say, my name's Emma, I'm the Membership Development Executive for CIBSE. Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Emma, I'm the Membership Development Executive for CIBSE, and today I'm going to be talking about the routes into CIBSE membership as well as how to achieve Engineering Council registration. So for those of you who aren't members, I'm going to talk through the range of benefits available when you join CIBSE. So you can access these benefits when you join at any grade of membership, so whether that's an affiliate level now or as a member and fellow later in your career. So arguably our number one member benefit is our free monthly subscription to the CIBSE Journal, in which you get a hard copy if you're a member, and this contains all the latest news, articles, career vacancies, as well as upcoming training opportunities. And on top of that, the ANZ region themselves, they also produce a quarterly digital publication called Engineering Buildings Journal. So that includes contributions from their committee members, CIBSE members, as well as industry experts from across the region. So as well as those publications, those journals, you'll also get a monthly CIBSE newsletter, which lets you kind of know what's going on at CIBSE. So we really try and keep you up to date with everything that's going on with us here at HQ, as well as globally, as well as what's going on in your industry. And on top of this, you can sign up to the ANZ newsletter, which gives you all the information on what's going on in your particular region as well. So arguably our second biggest benefit, as a member, you'll get access to the knowledge portal, and our portal has over hundreds of titles worth of publications, including all the latest up-to-date CIBSE guides and standards. And as a member, you can download these for free. That can save you quite a bit of money, seeing as some of these guides themselves actually cost over £100 each. And as a member, you are expected to do your CPD, and as I say, as a member you get discounts to online learning modules as well as face-to-face training courses and events. And I know the ANZ guys have been working behind the scenes, and they're currently developing building services training modules in 7 building services disciplines, and that includes mechanical, electrical, hydraulics, NCC and performance solutions, fire protection, sustainability and vertical transport. So watch this space. And we also put a CPD section in our CIBSE journal each month where you can read about a topic and then fill in a quiz that gets logged on your CPD records. And finally, when you join us, you're also joining a network and community of over 21,000 building services professionals, which means that our membership can really open doors to plenty of networking opportunities, which in turn can help you progress in your career. And we have one of our members here who has spoken about her experience of being with CIBSE, and Sue Ranjit has said one of the main benefits of CIBSE is being able to professionally develop within the building services sector, as well as to maintain and track personal development. So thank you for that, Sue. And on top of your general CIBSE membership, you can also get a professional level or entry level membership with a CIBSE society. As I say, this is in addition to your CIBSE membership. So if you wanted to specialize in one of these more niche areas, we have these 5 societies. And they are the Society of Light and Lightning, the Society of Public Health Engineers, the Society of Facade Engineering, the Institute of Local Exhaust Ventilation Engineers, and the Society of Digital Engineering. And on top of those societies, we also have 19 special interest groups, and each one of these groups focuses on a different area of building services engineering. And I've just highlighted a couple of our bigger ones, which is our energy performance group, intelligent buildings, and homes for the future. So you can see quite a range of groups that we have. And these groups, just like our societies, they provide you with a platform to voice your opinions and ideas, and meet other interested engineers in those particular niche fields that you're interested in. On top of that, we also have our Australia and New Zealand regions split into 8 chapters who run a variety of annual technical, soft skills and social events. And these chapters are New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, South Australia and Auckland. And I'd really recommend that you have a look at the ANZ section of the website and see what's going on in your local chapter and how you can get involved with CIBSE at a local level as well. And we also have another quote from one of our lovely members. This is Scott Mason, and he says, "The networking opportunities that CIBSE presents are invaluable and has really helped me to find a sense of community within the building services sector." So thank you for that, Scott. So we have 7 membership grades in total that I'm going to briefly explain. On the left-hand side of your screen, you will see our entry grades, our student, graduate, and affiliate. And these grades just require you to fill in an application form and pay a subscription fee, unless you're a full-time student, in which case your membership is free. And that's all you need to do in order to become a member with CIBSE. Then on the right-hand side of your screen, you will see our corporate grades. So we have licentiate, associate, member, and fellow. And these come with an additional set of benefits as they act as a level of professional recognition. Now, for our corporate grades, there is an assessment on your competence as part of the application process for these grades. And at the end, you're able to use CIBSE letters after your name and also achieve Engineering Council registration alongside them too. But we do always encourage individuals to apply at an entry grade initially, so you're able to access all the member benefits and become more integrated with the institution whilst you're working towards upgrading to a corporate grade when you are ready to do so. And now I'm just going to touch on the Engineering Council registration that you can get along those corporate grades that I mentioned in the previous slide. So the Engineering Council, they hold the register of professional engineers in the UK. There are over, I think, about 222,000 individuals on the UK register, and they come under 3 different levels. So Eng Tech, iEng and CEng, as I will go into. And there are also over 10,000 engineers and technicians on the interim register. So those are individuals who are graduates and they are working towards achieving professional registration. So CIBSE, we're regulated and licensed by the Engineering Council, which means we can grant these professional titles in the field of building services. And we're one of 36 professional engineering institutions in the UK. But if you're working in the building services industry, we will be the most relevant institution for you to get your registration through. So if you applied as a licentiate, you could get engineering technician level of registration. Our associate grade allows you to apply for incorporated engineer level of registration. And then for our member grades, we actually have 2 different pathways. We have member incorporated engineer, which is 1 application, or we also have member chartered engineer. In this presentation, I'm going to be focusing on CIBSE iEng and CIBSE CEng, but if you do have any questions about licentiate Eng Check or member iEng, let me know and I can address those questions at the end or via email. So what are the benefits of professional registration? Why would you go and do a professional registration application? So firstly, registration gives you instant recognition that makes you stand out from your peers. It's an indicator of your professional status and acknowledges your career experiences and, most importantly, your competence in building services field. And it shows that you have fulfilled both UK and international standards, which is highly respected by employers across the world. So it is an internationally recognised qualification. And research has shown that registration does give you a huge advantage over your unregistered peers throughout your career. It can boost your salary prospects, your career progression, and give you better opportunities for professional development. But it doesn't just benefit you as an individual, it does also benefit your employer. It gives your employer the reassurance of your credentials, as they know that by you being registered yourself, you've been thoroughly assessed of your competence by other professional engineers in the field. It also shows that you follow professional codes of conduct that everyone in your industry should follow in practice. So you'll have your own company code of conduct, but by following the CIBSE, that industry standard, you can show that you are aware of the codes of conduct that should be shared across the field of building services. It also shows, research has shown that for the employer, it's an indicator of increased technical ability in the workplace, and it helps them with business bids and tenders, as it shows clients how many registered engineers there are in their company, which in turn increases technical credibility in both you and your employer. But it is always worth finding out the ways in which your employer can support you through this process, and many companies do. Whether that be covering the subscription costs or providing a mentor or guidance really on meeting the requirements of the application. And we do recognise employers who have done this particularly well through our Employer of the Year awards, and you can nominate your institution if you think they've done particularly well, and they can go along, celebrate and have a little trophy to put in their cabinet. So how do we assess you? Now, I'm going to briefly explain the difference between CIBSE membership and the Engineering Council registration. So CIBSE membership, say in this example, member, we're going to purely be assessing you on your ability to meet a set of competence criteria. However, the Engineering Council, so the registration, say in this case CEng, they're going to be looking at your academic qualifications. Now, I'm going to go through the academic requirements for IEng and CEng on the next slide, but if you find that you don't hold a relevant qualification, please don't worry. You can still achieve that registration with the Engineering Council, even if you don't have an academic qualification. It just means that you will take the alternative route that I'll explain a little bit more of later on. So the academic requirements for IEng, we do accept a range of qualifications. For international degrees, CIBSE accepts qualifications accredited under the Sydney Accord for IEng, and this is an international agreement that covers Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, as well as some other signatory countries. So if you began your degree in the UK, however, before 1999, we can accept an approved BTEC, HNC or HND. If you began your degree after 1999, you would need to hold an accredited bachelor's degree in engineering. For those of you who have European qualifications, we can accept those listed on the FIANI database as first cycle degrees. But for international or UK-based degrees that aren't accredited but are the same level, you can apply for qualification assessment with CIBSE, where we check the content of your degree and the modules that you studied to see that it meets the academic requirements for IEng. So it's always worth checking with us to see whether or not your qualification is accredited or whether or not meet the requirements, especially before you apply if you're not sure, because you don't want any sort of surprises as you go through the application process. Now, the academic requirements for CEng, again, sort of similar format, but the requirements are slightly different. So for international degrees, on this occasion, you would need to have a degree accredited under the Washington Accord for CEng. If you started your degree before 1999 in the UK, we can accept an accredited BN Johns. In 1999, the Engineering Council raised the benchmark for IEng and CEng, so that's why pre-99 and post-99 do differ. So if you had a UK-based degree post-1999, for CEng, we accept an accredited MEng or an accredited BN Johns plus an MSc, so essentially up to that master's level qualification. And if you had a European degree, we can accept those accredited on the FIANI database under a second cycle degree. But again, if you hold a qualification that's at that level, but it's not accredited, you can apply for that qualification assessment where you're independently assessed. And again, always worth checking with us to see if your qualification is accredited, and we can confirm that eligibility for you. So in most cases, depending on whether or not you hold academic accredited qualifications, you will go down one of two routes. However, I have included a third route for those of you who may already hold professional registration with another regulatory body. So if you hold a relevant qualification, you can apply via the standard route, and if not, you may be eligible to apply via the alternative route, which essentially is a two-step process as opposed to a one-step process. So on the standard route, you will submit a written application and a report. If that's successful, you will then attend a professional review interview. The comments from that interview then go to a CIBSE registration panel. And then at the end of that process, if successful, you achieve both your CIBSE membership and your Engineering Council registration together in one go. Now, the alternative route works in the same way, but if you don't have an accredited qualification, this is the route for you. You submit an application form and an engineering practice report, same application form, same engineering practice report, except for this time, if successful, you attend a competence review interview as opposed to a professional review interview, as you're being assessed on your competence as opposed to your competence and your academic qualifications. Then those comments go to a CIBSE members panel as opposed to a CIBSE registration panel. And at the end of that process, if successful, you achieve your CIBSE membership, which is great. However, if you want to then achieve IEng or CEng, there is a second step. So for our alternative route, there are two options for you at this point. Our more popular route is our technical report route. So with a technical report route, you choose a topic of your choosing. So the report can be really specific to the professional experience and knowledge that you individually hold. And this report is to demonstrate you have the knowledge and understanding within building services engineering to an equivalent level to a master's qualification. So if that's successful, you then attend an interview on that report. Interviewers go to the CIBSE registration panel, and at the end of that process, you then get your CIBSE membership alongside that Engineering Council registration. So most people do go down this route, but for those of you who want to go back to university and do further academic learning, we have our further learning route. So in this case, you go back to university, say you have a BEng Hons, you go back, do an MSc, then you would update your engineering practice report, attend an interview on that report, then those comments go to the CIBSE registration panel, and at the end of that process, you achieve your CIBSE membership and your Engineering Council registration. So like I say, if you don't meet those academic requirements, you can still achieve registration. You just go through this alternative route. But as I mentioned, there is a third route, and this is really for people wanting to obtain CIBSE via a fast track route. So for those who already hold full membership with one of the following 5 signatories and have gained membership of that institution via the normal qualifying route, you may be able to go down this route. So you need to hold full registration with one of these regulatory bodies. So Engineers Ireland, Engineers Ireland, Engineers Australia, Engineers New Zealand, Hong Kong, or Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka. So in addition to holding a membership with one of those signatories, you must also have attended a professional review interview, and you must hold an accredited, recognised academic qualification. And you need to meet all 3 of these requirements to be eligible for this fast track route. So if you are eligible, we would encourage you to submit the following. So you would need to submit an application form with a sponsor's requirements, copies of your degree certificates that are signed by your sponsor, a member certificate with your home signatory, and your CV. So the next steps for that process: your application is submitted, it's checked by a member of CIBSE staff, then that application is submitted to our membership panel. They meet every 2 months, they go over your application and they say yay or nay, and then an email confirmation is sent to you if you are successful. But I have included guidance on how to complete this route, so click through in the hyperlinks and it will take you to the relevant page on the website where you can read a bit more about how to achieve CIBSE membership via that fast track route. So going back to the standard and alternative routes, you need to submit an engineering practice report as the main bulk of your application. And this report will look at your commitment and competence to building services engineering. Now, the Engineering Council has set out a list of competence criteria for each grade that applicants apply for, so they need to show that they can meet all these requirements as part of their application. So as I say, you're required to write that engineering practice report where you look back on your career and you provide examples for meeting each of the 17 criteria for ACIBSE or MCIBSE. Now, I'm not going to go through all the competencies in depth today, but I'll just quickly explain the kind of criteria that sits within each section. So A and B are all about your technical skills and engineering knowledge and how you apply these in the professional roles that you have held. So essentially how you solve engineering problems. C is looking at your technical and commercial leadership, your management skills, how you deal with responsibilities, tasks and other people. So if you have any line management that you do or indirect line management, that would be a really good example to add here. But don't worry too much if you don't hold that. And then D is looking at your communication and interpersonal skills. So how you write technical reports, how you talk to suppliers, that kind of thing. And then E is your commitment to engineering. So this is kind of a range of things, and it's how you comply with the CIBSE Code of Conduct, your understanding of health and safety, ethics, and how you keep yourself up to date with your CPD. So that could be going on a course or reading the CIBSE journal, for example. And as I say, there's 17 criteria for ACIBSE and MCIBSE and 23 criteria for that separate grade of membership, MCIBSE IEng. But all the competencies are included in the Engineering Council's document UK Spec, and there is a hyperlink included in this image. So if you want to get lots more information about what these competencies are and how to meet them, do have a look at that document for further information. So the requirements for ACIBSE and MCIBSE can appear quite similar. So not everyone is sure kind of which grade they should be applying for. And really the key is to look at the difference in wording and the competence criteria. Now, our interviewers have put together the following to show the differences between the two grades here. Sections A to C, I'm going to go over, as D and E are quite similar, and what they would expect from a candidate applying for each of these grades. Now, it is slightly wordy, so do bear with me. So, for competency A, in this case, associates and incorporated engineers maintain, manage applications of current and developing technology and may undertake engineering design, development, manufacture, construction and operation, whereas members and chartered engineers develop solutions to engineering problems using new or existing technologies through innovation, creativity and change, and they may have technical accountability for complex systems with significant levels of risk. For competence B, and on the left-hand side, an associate incorporated engineer will be able to use theoretical knowledge to solve problems in developed technologies using well-proven analytical techniques. Whereas a member chartered engineer, again, will be able to use theoretical knowledge to solve problems, but in this case, new technologies and develop new analytical techniques. And then for competence C, on the left-hand side, an associate incorporated engineer will have responsibility for project and financial planning and management, together with some responsibility for leading and developing other professional staff, whereas a member chartered engineer will have accountability for project, finance and personnel management, and managing trade-offs between technical and social economic factors. So essentially, the more strategic and senior your role, the higher level you can apply for. So if you're not sure, I really would recommend taking a look at both competence criteria side by side and try to see whether you can match experience, examples of your professional experience against those criteria. And that will give you an indication of which grade is more suitable for you at this stage in your career. But a breakdown of all the grades of professional registration, their competencies and sub-competence therein can be found in our guidance documents. And as you can see, A21 for MCIBSE, sorry, so ACIBSE and M21 for MCIBSE. So do click on those hyperlinks and it will take you to the relevant page where you can find out more information on how to achieve those grades. So when it comes to applying for these grades, there are some common myths, and I do get quite a few of these. But the most common myths that I get, I thought I would include in this webinar. So the number one myth that I get the most is, I don't have a bachelor's or master's degree, I can't apply. And as we discussed, that's not true. If you do have an accredited bachelor's or master's, that's great, and that means you can apply via that standard route. However, for those without qualifications, we have that alternative route in place for you guys, which takes into consideration a person's professional experience and achievements rather than those academic qualifications that they may or may not hold. The second biggest myth that I get is, I don't have many years or UK experience, I can't apply. And again, this is not true. Experience from person to person can be extremely different. Therefore, rather than focus on the number of years experience you have, we recommend looking at the competence criteria of the grades you're applying for to see whether or not you can match examples of your engineering knowledge and professional experience to those competencies. And both UK and international experience, is where relevant, is very welcome and can be used in examples within your report. As I say, we have members across the globe, so we certainly have lots of international members. And the third biggest myth that I get is, I don't have any direct reports, I can't apply. Now, this is one of the biggest myths out there. If you do have direct reports, again, that's a great example to demonstrate competency C and D. However, it's not a requirement. So if you don't have direct reports but liaise with internal or external suppliers, staff or contractors, or perhaps you're managing several projects, budgets, or write technical reports, these are also examples of management and good communication skills. So those are the three biggest myths that I get. And those are the answers to those myths. So, writing your engineering practice report, the main bulk of your application. So this is the way you would demonstrate your ability to meet each of those competence criteria, and that's through reviewing your career to date and selecting the strong examples you think can meet each of the criteria. So there is a 4,000 to 5,000 word count for this report, and the main thing is to ensure you are providing an example for each and every one of those criteria. But like I say, that does not mean that you have to provide 17 or 23 different examples. You can use the same example for more than one competence or sub-competence, as long as the example is relevant and can address the varying requirements. But never fear, because when you come to write this report, we have plenty of support initiatives for you in place. So the first thing we do is we have membership phone surgeries, so we can arrange a phone surgery between you and one of our professional interviewers. The interviewer will get sent a draft copy of your engineering practice report in advance of the call, and then they'll spend an hour or so going through your report with you on the phone. Now, each of these costs £20 and can be booked through my colleague Jill. So if you are interested in one of these, do drop me an email at the end of this webinar, and I can arrange one for you. On top of membership phone surgeries, we also have sample reports that you can find online. And they are kind of broken into two different ways of how you can structure a report. So in this example, this is a competency-based report. So you can see the person has addressed each competency as a separate example. So one example, A1, next example, A2, and so forth. But the other way you can structure a report is as a project-based report. So in this example, someone's got an example of a project that they've done, and they'll address different competencies as they go through their report. So as you can see in this case, they've started with E3, then they've gone to A1. So the competencies don't have to follow a certain order. As long as you're addressing them, you can put them on the right-hand side of the main body of text. And then finally, we have how to start your engineering practice report webinar. We also have an online presentation that you can view that goes into further details of each of the criteria and provides examples from successful applicants. So again, if you're not sure how to start, do have a look at that webinar. It's about 5 minutes long, and it gives you lots of sort of ideas on how to start. So the application for ACIBSE and MCIBSE. So in order to complete your application, you will need to submit all of the following documents. So the first thing is your application form with your sponsor's requirement. So you need to submit that application form and make sure the sponsor requirement is completed. Your sponsors have to know you for at least 1 year in a professional environment and must be the same level of membership or engineering council registration you are going for or above. So if you're applying for CEng, that individual would also need to hold CEng. But if you're not quite sure whether or not they're a CIBSE member or they're eligible, let me know and I can check for you to see whether or not they're eligible. But do note that your sponsor doesn't have to be a CIBSE member as long as they're registered with one of the 35 institutions of the UK or an equivalent international institution, then that's fine and they should be able to be your sponsor for this application. Alongside your application form, you also need to submit a copy of your CV, which includes your work experience listing to date. Again, you don't have to put loads of detail in this one, but as long as you include your roles and responsibilities for those relevant roles, so the interviewers can kind of get an idea of the types of experience that you hold. Alongside that, you have your engineering practice report, so your 4 to 5,000 word document, which is the main body of your report. Then on top of that, you have your organisational chart. Again, it doesn't have to have masses of detail, but I would recommend including at least 1 or 2 tiers above and 1 or 2 tiers below. Again, just so they can see where you sit in your company and get an idea of the types of experience that you may hold. And finally, your development action plan. So again, not too long, just about 150 words per section of your short, medium and long-term goals. And this can be a cross between personal goals, institutional goals, or company objectives, for example. But all the information for all of these grades and sample reports can be found online. So do have a look at those if you're stuck at all about how to apply. So I'm just going to touch on how the interview works. So after you submit your written application, you will be, if successful, invited to attend an interview. And the interview is really your opportunity to verbally demonstrate an example for each of the competence criteria again. So you'll basically be verbally going through your report. There will be 2 interviewers present who are CIBSE members that have undertaken special training. And we will ask you to prepare a 15 to 20-minute presentation where you demonstrate the competencies. The presentation doesn't have to be a stand-up presentation like in this example. So it can be conducted while sitting at a table and can be relatively informal. So some people do like to bring handouts and things with them, and I would recommend bringing a visual aid such as a PowerPoint or handouts to kind of help you prompt you as you're going through your presentation. And at the end of your presentation, your interviewers will ask you questions, but those questions should be around your report and what you said in the interview as well. And they'll ask you to expand on certain things. So there shouldn't be any surprises when it comes to the questions. But we do also have a how to prepare for your interview webinar. So do check that out online if you're not entirely certain. And as you can see, we have a hyperlink that's embedded into this image where one of our interviewers talks about the top tips on how to apply for the interview. So do have a look at that video as well to get some ideas. So after today, start your journey. So as I mentioned, for all the routes, international applicants can apply at any time. And the next steps after today is to join as an entry grade member, such as an affiliate if you've not done so already. The application process is really easy. Download a form, fill in your details, add a payment method, and off you go. And as you have been a part of this webinar, we will offer you £25 off. So we will get rid of the application fee if you apply for this grade. So when you do submit your application, note that you've been part of this webinar and mention my name, and you will get that 25 application fee off. As I say, we also have documents for all the other grades, so do check them out if you're looking to apply for our corporate grades. And let's stay in touch. So hopefully you guys all clicked yes to receiving emails from CIBSE. Otherwise, I will not be able to update you with application support or guidance, or invite you to events, webinars and workshops that may be interested for you. And on top of that, we do have our social media channels. So if you ever want to find out what's going on at CIBSE, check out our LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook pages to see what's happening at CIBSE. And finally, I have included my details on this webinar. So if you do have any particular questions, say in specific qualification questions, do get in touch with me via email and I can help you with any questions that you may have. So that is the end of the webinar, and thank you very much for attending. I hope you found that useful, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.